Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Life podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Smith. And if you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast episode. And if you love this podcast, you want some more tips and tricks on how to improve yourself, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are a ton of instructional videos there. You can find the links down below. But for today, my brothers and my sisters, my friends, my guest today is the one, the only mindset coach himself, Jeffrey Morgan.
What an introduction. I better live up to that, my brother. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure, my man. I was recommended you as a guest, and obviously I creep on all the guests. I research them a little bit, dive into their life a little bit, and I'll be honest, I didn't go into a lot of research for yourself, and that's not out of a lack of interest. It was actually due to resonating with your message and your vibes so quickly.
Love that.
It was very efficient.
Love that. That's the idea on any socials, right? To get out and make sure there's someone comes to your page, you understand what you're about, where you were, why are you spitting this message? You're not just another person doing something around the same path for a million different people. How are you different? And I think that energy, I hear it all the time. The energy that you put out to the world comes back to yourself, and I think that's in the conversations that people come into and allow themselves to be in the same space. If they're looking for that energy that I put out to the world around the spaces that we obviously tap into around as a mindset coach, global business, then they're going to come into that space because they want to, in some way, shape, or form, improve their life.
Absolutely. So, how is it that you improve people's lives?
Well, to start out, 12 years of age, abusive father, hang jump out of a window, first floor, 12 years of age, was quite some height at that time. I go out onto the streets into survival mode. I started life where I basically just slept under bridges, did what I could, started getting into cafes, canteens just to eat. And at one point in time, started to find money. That money that I found led to a life of crime. Fast forward 25 years, and I was in that world for a long period of time. And we got to a level of criminality where I was robbing banks by the end of that, traveling around Australia. I was arrested in two different states, robbing two different banks at different times, served over 18 years, as I said, in custody. And it led me to this point. In the background, brother, sister commit suicide. Both parents pass on from cancer. I'm a proud Aboriginal man from down under Australia. And in general, our culture or our people have gone through, and I realised that it was beyond us. In our community, it's one of the most notorious streets in Australia's history, running riots with police. Went through this ram raid period, stolen luxury cars, ram raiding shops at night, or going out to the docks, and all these types of crimes that were just based around my mentality at that time, around thinking that life was normal, and this is how you survive, and I'm just doing my best to. That led to me, obviously, 13 years ago. I lied, about 20 years. What's the date today? It'd be close to 20 years to the date. I think it's tomorrow since my last arrest. I was arrested on Friday the 13th. The last time my co-accused at the time said, "Do you know the date today?" And I was like, "Doesn't matter." And he goes, "It's Friday the 13th." As we we're about to rob the last bank I ever robbed. And I just said, well, yeah, it doesn't have any relevance to me. Looking back on it, it did, because it was the last time I was arrested. And literally tomorrow is 20 years to the date that I was arrested for the last bank robbery. I go into custody. It's 8 hours out of Sydney. So I'm a Sydney man. 8 hours out of Sydney, down south. I'm locked up in Melbourne, lock holder, so far away from family. I've got kids at that point in time that are back in Sydney. And, I look back on it now, I was a weak boy. No accountability, no ownership, no responsibility. toxic behaviors around sleeping with as many women as I possibly could. All these, but if you asked anybody, I was a really cool dude. I was, you give me high fives, especially the males of the world, for the amount of women I'd been with and like that, the amount of money I had, the toxic lifestyle I had. But everyone was saying, how great is your lifestyle? I had all this money, people around me. But you look back on it all now, and that's where the transition changed. I was in custody at that point in time. And someone comes up to me. I'd just come out of segregation, which meant that I spent 3 months in a cell, nothing in there but my thoughts, journaling every single day. You don't get anything pretty much but a pencil and a little pad. I just wrote everything that I was thinking about. Is this the life you want? And I started to transition and write out what I was currently living. Is that what you really want for the rest of your life? And then I started to create this new web of change, I suppose, where I just looked at each element of my life. And it was the friends I had, the thoughts I had, the actions I was taking, the beliefs, morals, values. And I just sat there and said, Farah, you're toxic. You're actually toxic. And now, what do you want to do? Do you want to check out and just check out in this cell right here, right now? Or do you want to step out of this space and make something so the rest of your life is the best of your life? And then I started to break down, do you have good qualities? Yeah, you do. You got great qualities, perseverance, commitment, dedication, all these qualities in the background. All I needed to do was flip those from a destructive construction into a constructive, development. And I know that's where the transition, and that's who I am as a mindset coach. That's where it all comes from, the depth of that knowledge, with the context of that background. And I looked at not only myself, but my externals, and looking at not only the Aboriginal community and how we were built and how toxic we were as a community at the time, but the whole world and how we sort of just operated at a level where we didn't truly step into our truest, authentic self. And, people get scared of that because of the judgment of, you want to dye your hair green, or you want to live a particular way out in the forest. One thing I learned coming out of that life, and once again, going into the mindset coaching side of things, is to just imagine your job was just to be yourself. Imagine your job was just to be yourself. And most of us don't turn up to that job on a daily basis to just be ourselves. And that's where, that's a bit of my story for the audience. And hopefully by now we've got you thinking far out what a journey. And there's so much behind, so much behind that's happened. People being shot by the police during that journey. Some people not making it out of banks because they got caught in the screen and died. And like so much of that you think about and you look back on. And I'm grateful for the life and opportunity I've got to sit before yourself today, brother, and share that knowledge and experience to the world.
That's pretty cool, man. It's so crazy. It's interesting to think that oftentimes Friday the 13th is considered a bad omen, but it seems like, because Steve Jobs says you can only connect the dots looking backwards, you can't connect the dots looking forwards. So you have the story that Friday the 13th was actually a good omen looking back now.
Absolutely. It was crazy because you look back and this is, I call it perception correction, because people say, oh shit, I got arrested and messed up again, or made a mistake, or fucked up, or whatever it is but the perception correction on that is, and I'll say this to everybody, what is the lesson that I learned from that experience? So I turn a negative into a positive, and that conversation, changing your language to change the outcome, comes out in that journey. And I think, I look back on it, like you said, it was the time when my cogs in my wheel shifted and changed, and I really transcended into this new version of myself, the caterpillar become the butterfly, and the beautiful life that's come from that moment. I'm grateful for. And people are like, really, you're grateful? And I was like, yeah, man, because and the funniest thing, Sydney's jail system doesn't have the education system, nor does it have the jail system, which was very conducive towards rehabilitation. My language, if we got on here, would have been gonna, shoulda, coulda, pig Latin, these conversations, signs, the whole lot that were well and truly entrenched and embedded in me. And being down there showed me a whole different way. And in Sydney, I was at E2, which meant I was a maximum security prisoner based around my crimes. I'd escaped a few times, that sort of thing. And it was just lock them up, throw away the key mentality. Melbourne had these cottages where you lived with three other inmates plus yourself, and you were cooking. You had these big kitchen knives like this, and I was in at the time with two murderers, literally. So you don't want to get in an argument, as you could imagine. And it's about effective communication and getting on. And you had to order food together. Everyone had to be happy. What meat do you like? What don't you like? And it's you break that down into what is it that's happening, the effective communication, the listening and learning from the other people in the environment, the awareness of the space, these conversations. And I think to be able to take jail knowledge into everyday people is very powerful, because I just find that that's very it's heightened by 1,000 in a space. Everything becomes so much more just by being in that space, because in a heartbeat, what would be outside and you might be upset at one another could turn into something that could end your life. And it's just so complex. So how do you really get to deal with that? And if you can deal with it at that level, when you come outside and someone says, "Oh, I've got a problem around this," I'm like, bro, that's let's fix that.
Because
Let's work towards
the
it.
threshold is different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like we can definitely make this work. And they're like, no, it's a negative. And I'm like, what's the lesson that you learn of it so you can grow and prosper and live a better life? And now we've shifted the narrative of thought towards I fucked up, I regret that, I made a mistake, or whatever it is. What are the lessons, even in a cheating scenario? Because I know people understand that one really easy, where you've lost the person. Yeah, you in your head you regret it, or you fucked up, or you made that mistake. But what's the lesson? What are you carrying that you need to seek external validation rather than internal validation of what happened to you in the past, to not feel great about yourself because your parents didn't care for you and they went out and lived their life, which happened to me. And that means you're able to see things totally differently when you step into a space and place. And that means that your heart, your soul, your mind, your spirit live in a different space as well, because it shifts from that narrative of darkness into the light.
I like to say that you on the I love that you just said like from the darkness into light. I like thinking of it from a point of you're viewing the world from a place of resentment or infatuation, a place of resentment or a place of love. And
Love
something that's
that.
crazy there, because I just kind of thought of this when you were telling your story about when you're in prison and everything that you experienced. And something that I recognize with your content and just chatting with you, and then Wes Watson as well. Wes Watson's like really intense for most of his stuff, but
Mm.
there's been a couple podcasts that I've heard where I was walking and there was something that he said where he's like I understand that I'm really intense, but he was saying it like I could hear, like, when you pick up like the feels, and you can't
Absolutely.
explain it, but you just hear like that, and then it's just like, oh
Mm.
my gosh, oh my gosh. So so what I find with what you guys have in common, just observing, and I haven't chatted with Wes Watson yet.
Mm.
One day I'm sure I will. But what I find is that you guys have such a crazy history, but you probably both have the most, not the most amount, but such a significant amount of compassion
Mm.
and abundance and infatuation and love and positivity that I love the story because of the hero's arc. Like your guys' hero's journey is like the extremes. And I think
Mm.
that when we're going through life, we get to experience, or when we get to, it's either by choice or by chance that our life is going to change. So it's going to be by choice that we
Love
choose
that.
the opportunity when we get to change, or it ends up being Friday the 13th and it's your last bank robbery, and by chance, that is the opportunity. So with kind of like looking at the overlaps of your guys' story and just understanding myself as a general populations kind of person, what is it that I guess general populations, or what is it that I would not understand about change? Where am I making it difficult on myself? Am someone else making it difficult on themselves? Does someone have to go through those huge, like something like that to really make such a crazy different change? What advice would you have for general populations, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a complex question in the sense that, but I'd answer it like this. We all carry an invisible backpack, and in that invisible backpack is your life experiences, good, bad, ugly, and that builds you. You come across people who have life experience that compress X amount of years, bang, here's the gift through this conversation or one sentence, one word, one podcast. If we're listening and we're learning, we're saying, hey, I don't need to go through that experience to be that person. The other thing I find, and especially with general population that I've learned, especially in jail, was there was a lot of labels. And whether you have PTSD, uh, depression, or whatever it may be, that there's some label, even your job title. I always say to people, tell me who you are. And I say, I'm a nutritionist and I'm a qualified nutritionist, trainer, mental health first aider. And, we could run through that list. But who are you as an individual? And what I find, people will sit there and go, I'm, and yeah, and they'll literally stutter because it's the definition of themselves came from the external of I'm a nutritionist, I'm a first aider, and now shit, so am I. I want to learn about that, so I'm going to come into that conversation. But and this is what we do with our program, it's building yourself from the inside out because you'll never control the external, the weather as the simplest example. Oh shit, it's a bad day. Wake up and say, I'm blessed to have another opportunity today, and I'm going to step into that space. Someone's crying in their lounge room now because their partner, their husband, their wife, their kid, their family has left this planet. And we'll wake up and focus on the weather. When you get to jail, it strips you bare. And you understand when you wake up and you got to, I thought, I was 18-year-old kid to understand this conversation. I went to Parramatta Jail. It was one of the most notorious jails in Australia's history. Very old sandstone jail. They were sort of starting to transition into these new jails. They were building them at the time. And you have a look at this jail online, you do research, you'll see how old it was. But it was basically, I woke up, so we get to muster and the boys all say, Morgs, you're crazy. And I'm like, why is that? And they're like, the bloke you're going in with, he's got HIV. I'm 18, I've just got the jail, first time ever in jail. And I went to Long Bay, which was another crazy jail, and they transitioned me over within 2 months of being there. And I'm at another really heavy jail, young kid, all these really well-known criminals that are like just built like a brick shit house, built like Wes. And I mean, you have a look at my photo, I'm stick man at the time. And they're like, you're crazy. This bloke's got HIV. And mind you, they tell me on muster, not out in the yard. They tell me on muster, which means that they're calling your names out and you walk into your cell and that's it. They lock you down from the night from 3 p.m. to 6 a.m. I go to sleep. My mind's racing. Shit. What if this bloke, woke up and he had a syringe at your face? Long story short, two things. I feel someone crawling across my legs, almost touching my groin area. I'm like, what the? And so I sort of jump up, and this rat's looking at me like, what are you doing in my space, brother? I flick the rat off the top bunk. I go back to sleep. Then I hear some rustling around. I open my eyes, and sure enough, the bloke's standing there, but he's got it in his arm full of blood. And I'm like, what the? So when you strip yourself back that far and that deep, and then someone says to you, well, let's say it was something simple like, what do you prefer, Jeff or Jeffrey, as an example? I get to a point, I'm like, I couldn't get what you call me. All I care about is what are my true self actions that I want to take around the best life so that the rest of my life is the best of my life. Because once you're that bare, nothing else matters. You're like, it's all, And you look at Wes and it's like, fuck, bro, stop talking bullshit about the weather not, being right, sitting there for you can't work today, or it's messed up something of a nature. Just deal with what you got to deal with. And, for females to understand this, if it rained and your head did get frizzed up and you were at an event, what do you do about it? What do you honestly do? You try and find a space, fix it up as best you can, and then you just roll with it. That's jail. And you've just got to roll with what you get and in that space. And when you understand the lowest level of operation at its highest level, which means we're in jail, but we're saying, let's try and make this the best we possibly can. That's where humans can get the most out of life, because now we're abundant and we focus on the lowest thing. We're up here, but we do the reverse of jail. We go, oh, I wish I had what that person had. I wish I was that fit. I wish I was that beautiful. I wish, hope. It's just never going to get you to that space. And when you flip that and start to say, you know what, I'm going to operate from this level. And I think, and obviously with Wes as well, we know what it feels like to be at the lowest level. I've slept under bridges as a 12-year-old kid. Look at any 12-year-old kid. Look at your nieces, your nephews, your own kids, and someone else's kids that's 12, and picture me sleeping under this bridge, wondering where my next bit of food's going to come from. The last thing I give a fuck about is if someone calls me Jeff or Jeffrey, or like, oh shit, this is hard to get open. It's we. That's because that's the complexity of yourself not being built around what you truly want in your life. Have you written it out? What are you doing for yourself? And once you do that, that's the only operational level. You're heading directional towards your intentions, or you're heading the opposite direction towards your distractions. Intentions, distractions, the life you want, the life you don't want. Always think of it, break it down to its simplest form. Do you want to head towards is this going to help me head towards the life that I want? And then I literally do what I call time, energy, and effort on an environmental space. And that time, energy, and effort I relate to a golfing tee, teeing off. So TEE, put that in the ground, bang, they tee off into a round of golf. Tiger Woods hits that ball, he kicks off his round of golf. That TEE is time, energy, and effort in any environment. Do I want to step in this space? Is it helping me head towards the direction I want within my life? And if not, I'm then intentional, say, look, I'm going to step away from it. You might have a space where you say on us, any day, once you create your own business. For me, I could do this on a Wednesday and say from 10 till 2, I'm just going to wing it and do anything I feel like doing. But I can guarantee when you're more intentional, even in the space of maybe wanting to scuba dive or something at that point in time, you're more than likely going to do it, have a surf, and I'm talking, you could go and want to paint. And I don't know what it is that you want to do, but if you don't write that out, you'll never get to that space. And what will end up happening, you'll focus, as I said, on just the small stuff. I can't open this. Oh, did you hear about that? What about what's on the news? And everything of a focus will be of an external, not an internal.
Oh, that's really cool. So when you get, so some parts I want to verbalize to take away just so I can understand it is when you strip everything down, you get to listen to the internal dialogue rather than the external chatter.
Exactly, because now you're in survival mode. Because one word, one conversation, one lack of awareness will get you hit. We had this saying in the area, talk shit, get hit. And I say with life the same thing, take it into life, talk shit, get hit. It doesn't mean that you're talking about something. It means if you don't have awareness as you walk out onto a crossing, expecting the car to stop, or while you walk out, and so you just walk out and you look ahead, you go, this car has to stop for me. As you know, many people use their phones. They put their head down, they're texting, they look up and you're there. And the amount of times, look it up on YouTube, the amount of times that people have been hit on crossings, you're crazy if you walk out onto a crossing and don't have awareness to, is this car slowing down? And the expectation that they need to stop. But I'm not risking my life by not having awareness to a space. And as you said, that internal dialogue of being aware of that space, you can then be so intentional around everything that you step into to make sure that you're at a level of awareness in this survival type mode. But when you turn survival mode into, when I say survival mode, having that base level, as I said before, of operation, and saying, now what I'm going to do is use that as my fuel to be more aware and thrive, not survive. That's a different conversation. And people, the thing with that, and you've brought a great awareness to this, is people get comfortable. We've got clothes, we've got a roof over our head. I'm doing well. But I say to the person, and I say to everybody on this podcast, do yourself a favor, pause for a moment, pause this video, grab something, write in a book, and I want you to write out what your ideal life looks like. If you had unlimited time, resources, money, who would you spend it with? Where would you go? What would you do? And then I want you to be true to yourself, not for yourself. I call it cut the bullshit. That's our program. But in general, cut the bullshit on yourself and say, look at it and then look at your current weekly planner. One, if you don't have a weekly planner, then you're definitely not heading down the life that you truly want. Remember, it's about you, not me. And then the second thing is, you can, even if you have one, does it correlate to what you've written out around your ideal life? And this is going to be the disconnect. And this is where we come into play as a program. But just people in general can start to connect the dots. I do that reverse engineering you spoke about with Jobsy and Gates does the same. They do a lot of the reverse engineering so they can connect the perceived dots to then step towards the direction of that ideal life. So if you write that out, the manifestation around your reticular activating system is going to focus on one thing and one thing only. And when someone says, oh, did you hear about the news? I'm like, oh, don't take it personal, but it's just not my business. And I always say to people, no one goes to a club that they don't want to be going to. You love R&B music, but then want to dance all night, but someone takes you to a jazz club or I don't know, an opera club where you have to sit there silent with your hands on your knees. Don't do the same thing to your life. Step into a space that doesn't correlate to the life you truly want, your ideal life versus the current life you're living. And that's a beautiful life to start to understand and step into.
I think it's really cool. I like I think the idea when you think at ink, and I think because it seems like journaling has been a process from Friday the 13th or even before that point and upwards.
Oh, wow.
And I think that the underrated, I think when we have that 2D visual where we have that paper to pen,
Yep.
that is the medium or the midway point between our conscious thought, what we envision, what we want our lives to be. It has to go from there to the 2D where we write it down or we have it on a computer. And then I find folks struggle manifesting that into the 3D. We're really good at going until 2D, but we stop before we get to 3D where it becomes a thing to focus on. And I think it has to do a lot with a lack of focus on what the direction is, which I guess people just need to sit with their thoughts a little bit more. But I like thinking of focus as an acronym for follow one course until successful.
Yeah, love that. Love that. I'll borrow that.
Yeah, go ahead. I've been taking. Go ahead.
It's a lot around subconscious to conscious. So you think it, you dream it. Fuck, I wish I had that car or life or holiday or woman or body or whatever it is, right? And then you go from here, you put it down on paper. And then what stops us is the old build of ourselves, the old version of ourselves. And what's the worst thing about it? If you've taken an action that hasn't caused the reaction, and I call it fear, feelings, emotions, actions, reactions. So the same thing, the acronym for ourselves, feelings into emotions, into actions cause reactions. Now, what that is if you've done something that's bad, say you cheated on your partner, you beat up on yourself and you say, I'm not worthy of that situation or something of that nature. And it's a subconscious feeling that stops you. You've gone from, as you said, 2D, you've written it out, but now that stops you firstly. And to get over that space, I'd highly recommend you step into some other person's space. And I always say to people, you can step into anyone's. I don't tell you, hey, come sign up to my program. Even on my socials, you'll see that. It's who you align with and who has done the compression of time to give you that gift of knowledge to step into that space and create change in a heartbeat. So if someone says, hey, this is what's happened to me, your perception correction and so forth, all these different elements that I can look at, and I look at the person like a car, all different sizes, bits, pieces, what pieces are loose, what's not running effectively and efficiently, how can we really work on this car to make it run at its best at this point in time within its life. But what we'll look back on is saying, oh, there's a dent in the car, so therefore I can't be I can't run as fast as every other car. You can run as fast and efficient as every other car, but obviously we're all going to have dents in our invisible backpack. Don't focus on these. Unpack those. Take the heaviness of your life that holds you back from everything you want to be. Step out of that fear. Identify your feelings and emotions. And by doing that, and the best way to do that for everybody is, what are the feelings that I don't want? What are the emotions I don't want? And when you identify those, then say, what are the feelings I do want? What are the emotions I don't do want? And then take actions to cause reactions. And to cross over in that barrier, let go of the invisible backpack. You've had to unpack that and say, what are the one? And I'll do that one at a time. So if it's a relationship breakup because you cheated, I'll keep going back to that simple one for people to understand. You can say, what was the lessons I learned from that to turn it into a positive, even if you were the person that cheated? Because as much as you think it's great to be having, some intimacy with somebody else and you're validated by that person in that moment, now you're crushed because you lost someone you actually loved and actually cherished. Why did that happen? How can I be a better person? What are my values, morals, and beliefs? Do I respect myself? Why don't I respect myself? And that transition shifts into actions which cause reactions. And the best way to do that is to identify what is the one action when, let's say it was me, the girl texts me, I've got a partner at this point in time, and the girl texts me and I go, oh, she's hot. And she says, you're sexy, as an example. And I'm like, oh, you too. What is it that you could do at that point in time to say, hey, I appreciate the comment, but I've got a partner? How can you transition? And to do that, I always say the old chocolate or whatever it is that you got in your pantry, where you go to eat that, walk to your fridge, grab an apple, bang, bite into it as quickly as you possibly can because you want that sugar here. And what you'll find is you start the transition. And if you can do it once, you can replicate or duplicate it in any other space. And that's a powerful little journey. Change the one thought, one action, one belief right at that moment, and then you rewire your neurological pathways so they start to work towards one another and create a strong neural pathway to allow you to step into a different space and place.
I like that a lot. I also have my own little acronym for fear as well. It's false evidence appearing real.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
100,
And
absolutely.
I like
And we
what you
live
said. I like what you said about the pantry as well, and just taking that second to be able to pivot the trajectory. Because if we want a different output, we have to produce a different input. Without a different input, we're going to repeat the same inputs we've had, and we're just going to have the same outcomes that we've always had. And
if
in
that
those
becomes
moments,
reality
say again, sorry.
for a long time, then it becomes a habit of destruction. Sorry to interrupt.
Exactly. Oh, that's all good. And then to prevent that habit of destruction, oh, I love that you said that. That's so sweet. You got to distract and direct that impulsive desire, that like that, because we have like, so this is something that's cool. There was a study that was done, and it was trying to figure out how quickly we think about our actions or decisions. How quickly does a conscious thought happen? And apparently, there seems to be a 7-second delay from our subconscious. So we've already made a decision 7 seconds ago. Like what you're going to say next, you already figured out 7 seconds ago. Same with myself. And so even
Well,
though we may be present in this moment, we're actually in a time delay. And so, yeah, exactly. And so we got to take that second to distract and redirect from type 1 thinking, where it's the impulse, like quick reaction. And we have to take the time to kind of like what Viktor Frankl talks about, where in between stimulus and response, we have enough time to insert logic and reason. And so then we
Absolutely.
can change the trajectory, because the trajectory, in my mind, the change in life, or every decision, is the opportunity to change the trajectory of a life. And when we're driving from point A to point B, we're not holding on to a steering wheel completely like still. There's
Yeah,
micro adjustments. There's micro adjustments the
absolutely.
whole time. Oh,
Love that. I call the A to B that you just spoke about, when you're born to when you die. What are the intentions in between? And if it's a C conversation, it's see you later. And that's basically means that just means that you're very intentional. Your A to B is about you. And organically, people please, family, friends, I'm going to help them. Just do you. And by doing you, they say, far out, what did you do, Jeff? How did you make that money? Or how do you be that healthy? How do you have that energy? What's that vibrancy come from? And then you can have conversations because the person wants to come in and learn from yourself. Otherwise, you're trying to force something into a space that just doesn't want to go, and you're trying to put that circle into a square, and or square into a circle, I should say. And that becomes just a hard slog of life. And I'm not going to spend time that's unintentional outside that A and B, because that's a see you later conversation.
I freaking love that. In between that A and B, and if it's a C, see you later. Oh man, that's
Uh,
so good.
It's
So
powerful.
good.
Like, to me, that's one of my favorite. Like, I think of these things because it is, as I said, you've had time to do so. And as humans, one thing Joel gave us was time to sit. And you look at Wes, and he said he manifested it. You say 7 seconds, I say 7 years. I had 7 years in the last sentence to sit there and just look at how I was built. How many humans have 7 years to say, I'm going to take chill for 7 years, and I'm going to work out what I want in my life? And Wes had the same. He had 10 years, I think, in his sentence. My one before that was 5 years. So I had these long breaks from society, stimulus, concept. It was in a different sense inside the jail, but from society or outside world, and to say, what do I want? Where do I want to head? And to steer that ship, that car, whatever it is, in that direction. And I think once you understand it, as you said, sometimes we think that we have to be on the steering wheel, that you can be steering that ship just by being present in what you want. But what we hear often is, I'm too busy. I always say, show me your weekly planner or your diary. And people say, what do you mean? I'm like, right here, right now, show me it. Even if they got 10 kids, show me. And they're like, oh, I don't have it, but I could tell you it. I said, let's write it out. We write it out and say, do you agree that you've got 4 hours on this day, 2 hours here, 1 hour there, 30 minutes there? And they're like, yeah, totally. And so could you do the exercise you said that you couldn't do? And they're like, shit, yeah, I could. And I'm like, well, now it comes down to prioritization. Look how much time you're spending here. You're driving that person to this place. They've got a car. You're enabling that behavior and taking away from the internal dialogue that you truly want. And now do you feel good about the life you're living? I feel good in the moment, but I also feel bad. I said, well, then you don't truly feel good, because what you're saying is that you feel good, but what you're really feeling is imbalanced on the other side. To be and feel truly good, everything must align. And that means that, yeah, I'm happy to help my family or friends, but at the same time, I'm not willing to give up my life to do that. And if you could do that where you still do your life, but you still were able to pass some knowledge or something of that nature, and not enable that behavior, you'll connect the dots to find a nice balance within your life. And when I say balance, it's just being able to do all of the things that you want. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but if you're not living the life of that, and this is where that comfort conversation you spoke about before comes into play, because people will tell you, no, I'm sweet. I've got a roof. I'm doing all the things. Write out your ideal life. And they're like, oh, I wish I could travel business class, or I wish I could go to that country. I don't have time to do that. Well, you're telling me your life's good, but you're wishing that things are happening. So there is a disconnect. And if the
Mm.
plates of the planet shifted, an earthquake occurs. And that's what happens internally to this person. They're going through life like this, constantly going, I wish, I hope, it's just, it's going to make you feel inadequate, unfulfilled, discontent about the life you're truly living. And I want you to start to say, how can I make this happen by being more aware of all these elements? That's once again what we do. We basically tap into the tentacles of your life and then plug them in so that you feel that your life's the one that you truly want to live.
And then you actually enjoy taking part in it.
Absolutely. And, you know, whether we got it today. One of the things that we didn't have, and we've been doing this so much this year, I let go of so much that I carried. I owned a lot of stuff. Like I got to a really high level, and then I was like, I still got this other stuff, and I've got this imbalance. So I started to deal with it. And where like I feel like I'm at the last bit of today. We do a reformer class. My partner and I, 11 o'clock, and it's 8 o'clock now. But in general, that's the flexibility side of things. And I thought I was probably not that flexible, but what I was doing was doing. So I'd do a set of weights. Say I was doing a bench press. I do a stretching set in between. Technically, I'd go back to my bench press. Now I'd skip for 30 seconds or a minute, whatever it is that your own strength and conditioning levels. Do another set of bench press, and at the last one, I do a core exercise. And therefore, I covered these elements in a shorter period of time, and I could knock out a half-hour workout really intensely, covering all those bases plus the specified body part. And each to own how you train, right? I'm not here to tell you how to train. Just make sure you show up to yourself and make that sweat equity and daily deposits to your bank account so that you bank those checks towards the life that you truly want, your quality of life. And that to me was a different conversation. Then I'm able to compress that, make that all work. But as I said, I went to this Cairo and he said, mate, you're actually really well balanced. Same thing the other day. It's on my actual socials. And he said, you're surprisingly pretty good despite all the hits that you've taken in the sport that you play, a very high contact sport in Australia. To me, that was, that was proof of, and I didn't need his validation, but proof of the efforts that I'd made towards what I've spoken about. That I wouldn't call balance. I'd just say the things that I wanted to do that I knew would improve my quality of life. So one of those tentacles I spoke about, quality of life, that's what I'm training for. And organically, my body shaped the way it was. I'm living longer. I'm stepping away from heart disease, diabetes, and cancers because my visceral fat's low. All these components and elements of life. And I think once you understand how you can strengthen each of those tentacles, business ideas, relationships, inner peace, quality of life, success, and your definition of those, then you step into a really powerful space.
And that's a fantastic place to be too, where you get to, it's not flipping from one extreme to another, where it's more of a smooth transition from one tentacle to another tentacle to another tentacle, rather than a huge peak or a valley where it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go into work. It's going to be the end of the world and everything has to stop. Or one that I found myself doing before is, if I was working, then work was the only point in time that really, like, I apparently couldn't schedule things around work, kind of thing. And so I didn't have the mindfulness around how to utilize my time more effectively. And what I kind of got from your idea of being able to strengthen each of those is decreasing to the most important factors. I guess identifying those most important factors and just ensuring that each one is strengthened little by little. Or what's that? It's inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
And it's so true. You look on our website and it says one habit at a time. And that just means that it used to the fact that life is a marathon. As we try and do it as a sprint, as you said, my focus is purely here. This is it for the whole week. I've got to get this report or essay or assignment or whatever it is that we're called in different countries done around your work or your academic levels. But be able to break that down and say, what I'll do is I'll spend 2 hours in this space around my academics. Then I'm going to step out and maybe go and do whatever it is, yoga, walk in the mountains, something of a nature, swim, surf, don't know what it is, right? Paint. So cook. And then I'll come back again. And now I'm going to do an hour of business. And after the hour of business, what I'll do is 15 minutes of stretching and mobility. And then after that, I'm going to go back to my assignment again for another 2 hours. And what you'll find is you come back in highly motivated and highly focused towards that reticular activating system. We call it Spotto in Australia, yellow car, spot the yellow car. That's a game we play as a kid. Let's play Spotto. What color? Yellow car. Bang. All of a sudden, a million yellow cars on the road. Shit, there's so many yellow cars everywhere. It's because our focus is purely towards that one space. And that's why, giving you, or those that are on here, the viewers, a chance to base out your colors within your weekly planner and elements. We've got elements. We've identified nearly 800,000 people over the last 4 years that I can look at and say, these are definitely elements that people value. And there's a value system around most of the stuff. You look at relationships, inner peace, and I don't define that. You've got to define your own way of that. Your inner peace could be yoga, next person meditation, journaling, infrared sauna, walking the mountains, surfing, sleeping. How many people don't put in their inner peace? Maybe during the day you come in and have a siesta. And it was one thing I got really good at. I had 20 minutes middle of the day every single day where I go and just lay down, crash out. And I find that if I can calm myself down and then I actually speed myself up. And that meant that during the day, I could say, I've got to get this report done. I've got to get this assignment done. I'd still go down and lay down, calm myself down, come back refreshed, and then step into that space and be more productive and proactive than I'd ever been. And that's, the Western society has got us into a position now where the 9 to 5 job went from 5 till 9. And that means that, and even in those hours, 5 till 9, 4 hours, or 5 till 9 at night, another 4 hours, that's another whole work day that people don't even get paid for. And they're telling me that they're doing these reports. And I'm like, why would you do that? You've enabled that now from that organization to say, if you want this job, this is what you have to do. I ain't doing that. Here's what I'll do for me in those 4 hours on each side of that to step into the life that I truly want. Do that around any business that you have, business idea that you have up here. Watch your life go to a whole new level. 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon, 8 hours a day towards your business idea. Your subconscious becomes conscious, and then you step and shift that one action to create the reaction within your life, and you overcome fear by tapping into the feelings and emotions you want. Action, reaction, and your life will shift and change forever. And put that into your own space rather than living somebody else's goals, dreams, and aspirations. You're worth it, man. True story.
Man,
Cannot get into life.
those were like the instructions of life right there. That whole chunk, man. That was like so good. That was fucking sweet.
I just get this manual to life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh
Right.
man. I think something that's honestly I think it's just a a beautiful thing. And we were chatting about it before where um like you brought up like Jay Shetty and the way he kind of goes around things like mindset mentors, I suppose. There's like a category of mindset mentors. And the thing that's kind of cool is you're in Australia, I'm in North America. There's Jay Shetty in America, I think actually, but let's say like in Europe, India, Japan, like all these different areas. The thing that I think is so beautiful about that last sentence that you said is how I think that is a common denominator instruction manual for all human beings that want to pursue that self betterment, that self actualization, that version of themselves that I call it the role model, the inner role model. There's the inner role
Love
model
that.
and their inner rival, and we can listen to either the rival or the role model. And I find that no matter where we may be from, we all have the inner rival and the inner role model, and they're talking no matter where we are. But as we develop these kind of our own personal philosophies or rules of engagement and how we want to interact with our existence and life, no matter where we're from and what these experiences are, the common denominators are the exact same as we become better and better and better versions of ourselves. It's it's just, I think it's a beautiful thing that is a connector of humans and existence, and something that's so special but so useful, but also perceived to be so difficult. And
Mm.
I think it still is difficult, but it's understanding that I have an informed decision of what not being a shitty person feels like by my own definition. So I know what feeling a shitty person feels like, and I know what feeling like I am now feels like. So seems like it's easier to come from that place of infatuation and self-betterment because I have an informed decision of to what the opposite end is like. And
Love that.
I think
You,
with
I
go ahead.
think difficult really quickly is difficult. My definition of that difficulty of life is you not living up to your true self. That's fucking more difficult than anything that you'll ever do within your life. Putting on this mask and character, oh yeah, difficult. Putting on the balaclava, that shit was difficult. Like I was being a different person to who I truly wanted to be. I thought that was me, but it was the survival mode that went into what I perceived to be a mode. And people say great money and great life, but I had to exchange 7 years of my life, 5 years of my life, 18 plus years of my life for that life. So as much as that seemed good, difficult was me not being my fucking true self. And I can't tell people enough. When you think fuck life's difficult, think to yourself, am I being my true self? And then you start to say, fucking, you know what? Actually, it's not that difficult. I'm going to step into the space of me. And then difficult becomes easy.
That is that was like exactly my thoughts articulated very well. I love that idea, or that kind of frame, that reframe of difficulty, where it's actually an internal check. Oh, this is difficult. Oh, why is it difficult? Oh, it's because I'm incongruent with my actions, thoughts, behaviors, perceptions,
You
and who I want to become.
I wrote out what you just said, like literally in a role model, because if I, yeah, and I'll do this to myself and I'll go away and do this. And this is what I say to everybody. What is the one lesson that you can learn in any space? Because people go into a space, they could go to Tony Robbins and I'll walk away and go, what did you get out of that to yourself? And you go, oh, he's a great talker. And I'm like, fuck, that's what you really got out of it? Fuck, right? So to me, in this space, in a role model, you've just given me that. Am I the inner role model that I want to be to myself? And that's what, talking about that congruency towards the life of Jeffrey Morgan or yourself. How is that the best life around who you truly want to be? And people, as I say, they say, no, I'm sweet, I'm good. We got a house, we got this, we got that. They owe money on the house, they're juggling bills to make it happen. They're not doing their hair as a female or nails or something of that nature because we can't afford it. You're not truly living up to who you want to be, right? Maybe it's a massage for you, whatever it is. I say to people, get a massage and try and get that out, or relax and de-stress and unwind for a second. Oh, I can't afford that. Well, if you tell yourself you can't afford that, your thoughts are in your fixed mindset around who you are currently right now. Opportunities, like if this is you, one person, this is 5 billion opportunities out in the world, right? This is you. And people say, I can't do that because I can't afford it. So you're not focusing on what you could do. You're focusing on how you're currently built. And until you say, what are the opportunities? Let's take a step towards that. Put that in my weekly plan, attentions, congruency towards me as an individual and what I truly want. And then I create a e-commerce business, which obviously then allows you to sleep and make money. Now even if it was $1,000 a month that it brought in, just as an example. So that wouldn't be hard, honestly. If you put time, energy, and effort, the 4 hours in the morning between 5 and 9 that you do for your company, and then 9 to after hours 5 to 9, you got 8 hours. If you put that in for 1 year, watch what happens. I guarantee you'll make $1,000 a week minimum passively, right? $1,000 a week, that could be a month. That could be a massage once a week, just as an example. And now you've created a different version of life already. And if you do it really well, who knows what happens? It could be, you look at Wes, you look at all these people that have done it, Jay Shetty, Trent Shelton, they did it off social media. So if they can do it, why can't all of us do it? And all it is living up to who? They went out. Jay Shetty's obviously a lot about relationships, the mindset, and so forth. But Wes, you got people that tap into, and I think this is where Wes is very strong because he understands this as well. Life isn't just about, you can be strong at relationships. So I'll go and learn off Jay how we can conversate, etc., etc. Think, perceive, believe, achieve in a space. But that's one space, relationships. And if I go, I'm strong here, or I'm making my relationships good with my family because I'm making so much money here, but now I'm not spending time with my family. I'm not congruent. The earthquake's happening again, and all of a sudden, you have a heart attack because you didn't look after your health. I was too busy, so I got takeaway food. I got big on making money for my family, and the perception is that life's fucking good. You're driving a Ferrari, but you got the Ferrari, you don't even drive it. You get to drive it once on a weekend, and you're so tired while you're driving it because you burn out that you don't enjoy it. And oh, this just car sounds so loud. I need a break. Like, I just think the whole purpose of having a Ferrari was pointless. Yeah, and this is what happens. I'm telling you, because I deal with these CEOs in our programs, and the conversations blow me away because my perception as a kid was that, like, I want to aim for that. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be the CEO that drives the Ferrari and all the hot chicks around me as a young kid, right? Top Gun was out. Tom Cruise put this thing into me. I was going to be Tom Cruise walking down the runway and everyone would want me. But when you sit with these people, even models, girls included, they'd say, I don't feel pretty. I'm like, man, like, you just, so it's the perception correction that needs, not needs, I won't say use needs, but people just don't realize they're strong in one element. They have the body. They're going out. So, Sports Illustrated want the jump on the cover for us, but internally they're fucked up. Because they haven't done the work on the tentacles of your life. And when you do this, now you're starting to work one habit at a time towards building each one of these up. And once you do that, what I do is I say you move from the basement to the penthouse in your actions to cause the reactions you want within your life. And the person who lives in the basement, and this ain't no knock, but this is the reality. The person who lives in the basement, always that person lived on the streets, roaming the streets, has a different life to the person who lives in a penthouse, and your operation level becomes totally different, congruent to the life that you truly want. And when I say penthouse, someone might want to just sit down by the ocean, throw a line in, watch the sun come up, and have enough money in their account to be able to do that on a regular basis. They've created this e-commerce business around fishing reels, maybe the spinners or whatever it is. I'm not a fisher, but they've created an online business. I had a mate who did exactly this, became a multi-millionaire because he just loved fishing, but he went into the space he loved. He then, mate, I went to this was many, many years ago, went to his house, and back then they used to have to send all the stuff out themselves, and he started in his house, and he had this middle kitchenette thing, and it was piled high full of this stuff. I said, what the fuck's all this? He goes, they're all my orders I've got to take today. I was like, where are you going to take them? He goes, post office. I was like, is this how you do it? He goes, mate. I said, what's this? Is this the month's orders? He goes, this is today's orders. I go, he's fucking joking. This was like, I'm not joking. It was probably 20 years ago. So, and it's gone to a whole new level now. He's got the site, he's got the whole lot. But the point to this conversation, he found his passion around what he wanted to do. And he sits down. I'm not joking. I just fish with him. Feet are in the water. We're fishing. Sun's coming up. Money's gone into his account, and he doesn't have to stress. He'll drive. He doesn't care what car he drives, but he's congruent with himself. His job is himself, and he's stepped into that space. And the way that he operates, financials are there. He eats a healthy way. There's other congruency now between the elements of his life. And as I said, you don't need the Ferrari to live a great life, but you got to be living and comfortable in all spaces and elements of your life. So he could go and fish if he wanted to, but if his bills were stacking up and he's about to get kicked out of his house and his family couldn't eat properly, then that's a problem. But people would tell me that, no, I'm okay, I don't need your help, Jeff. And I'm like, mate, you you need your own help for your own life around who you truly want to be. And when you step into that space, that's a magical transition from A to B, a beautiful life of intentions.
I like that a lot. When you said earlier, where you corrected yourself where it's need to, but you don't need to. I kind of thought of a reframe to introduce or insert to the mind of someone. So it's not in a place of absolutes, like nobody needs to
Exactly.
change the way or change the aspect of their life, but it would be, and I wrote it down here, in it would be in someone's best interest to reevaluate the aspects of someone's life, or not just the aspects, or evaluate the tentacles and
Absolutely.
check in on the tentacles and check in on those different aspects, because I believe that we all do understand that there is multiple hats that we wear in order to do the task or the roles that we say yes to. And
Absolutely.
all those tasks that we say yes to doing is in our best interest to evaluate on a regular basis, to one, see if we want to continue those tasks, and to two, kind of get a good uh, kind of feedback as to whether or not those tasks are still in alignment with that long-term vision.
Absolutely. Think about, I'll give you a great example. First one's the individual. Now you become a parent. So there's two. Now you're a mother or father. Now you go into a sporting team. So you're a team member. Now you've got a job. So you're your label, whatever that may be. And all of a sudden, I'll just give you those examples. But you could have your friends, you could have you have these elements that you can identify within your life. And once you've identified those, then I say, how can I get strong at this relationships? How can I get strong at being a parent? How can I be strong as a role model? How can I be strong as a team member? And then you can start to. So if you're playing sport and you're not fit, but your team relies on you for whatever reason in your role, but you're the cog in the wheel that's not making things happen, and points are coming through your lack of action, then something has to change. Otherwise, your team will say, you need to sit on the bench. And if you do that in your life and you're sitting on the bench of your own life, then you're not going to step into or onto the playing field of your own life. And then, as I said, break it down. I don't know what you are or who you are, but I know one thing: if you can identify what you spaces you tee off into time, energy, and effort, you can start to become aware and say, what I will do is I'll start the train. I'll do some core strength stuff every morning, 100 sit-ups or 20 as an example, right? You're starting out, do five. And why do you do five? It's a discipline that creates a habit, which then becomes a lifelong ritual that is a part of you being strong when you step into an opportunity in space. I'll give you the greatest one. The other day, as an example, on Friday, someone hit us up. It's Monday today. And I said, hey, Jeff, we've had someone pull out. Could you come in and talk for an hour and run a workshop? If I wasn't prepped for that and ready, I'd say, oh, man, I've got something on, and I might step away from it because the fear, the anxiety, the perception. But I said, yeah, no worries. Here's what the investment is. And I ran through that whole process, and they pretty much yesterday, no, I lied, the day before, on the Saturday, said, yeah, no problems. Let's book it in. And that's because even though the investment's high, they know the value within that investment. Why? Because I had the opportunity to get myself in a space to be prepped for life. And that's where jail, same thing, stripping you back. You had to be prepped. When that jail door opened every single morning and the officer would open it, walk to the next cell, what you found was people attacked people straight away first thing in the morning. They waited, and they knew that some people who were lazy, snoozing and losing would be just laying up in bed, and it was the perfect time for them. So it got me to, and Wes is the same. We got up and we were fucking prepped and ready. When that door opened, my chest was out ready to rumble. And when you get that mentality to life, you are showing up every single day intentfully towards the life that you truly want. And I keep mentioning that because people say, oh, I'm doing it now. But if you're stressed out about your bills, are you really truly doing it? If you're not intentional about your time, energy, and effort to the spaces and places that you're in, and you're going towards distractions rather than intentions, well, then I promise you this, you'll live a life of comfort rather than a life of authenticity. And there's a difference between comfort and authenticity. And the authenticity will allow you to be something that you probably never thought you'd be. And look at Wes, you look at these blokes that have done it. They just went all out authentically on social media, and whether they're swearing, whether people love them, they're like, oh, I love this podcast, I love this person, because they're just them. I'm fucking being me, and if you don't like me, well, my job is to be me, and if you don't like me, then that's cool. I'm cool with that. You'll never please the whole world if you go out every day and go, I'm going to impress you today and all those viewers he's got and somebody else. But what do you say there? I'm going to put a mask on and pretend I know about perfumes and makeup and stuff like that. I don't know shit about it. So if I'm going to someone asks me that question, I say, look, there's nothing I'm interested in, and step out of that space. Some people will then have a conversation for an hour around how good it looks with the mascara on your eyes and so forth, have no idea about what they're talking about. I'm not going to waste my time, energy, and effort in that space. And it's not because I don't care about it. It's just because it's not my authentic self. And when we identify that through those tentacles, and we are living and moving relentlessly, contagiously towards the life we truly want, without judgment on ourselves, but understanding that we're all built different, and I respect those that aren't. Birds of a feather flock together. Whatever conversation you want to have, it's a cool life. Because if I see someone with green hair and I walk past and I go, no, good for you. That's how you want to live. Go hard and go all in, and fuck what people think. And we get in this, society where we focus so much on the external. Shouldn't dye your hair green, shouldn't do that, shouldn't do. It's none of my business what somebody else does. My business is me, and I'm going to make sure that every single component of my business, sales, marketing, self-love, self-care, self-worth. When I say sales marketing, when you flip that in from a business into self-love, self-care, self-worth, values, morals, beliefs, goals, dreams, aspirations, I'm filling my cup constantly like this. I'm ready for war, man. I walk out to that Coliseum, that line's getting got. And that's how, that's my mentality around every single day. No one's going to stop me from being me, but me. And once I do that, that line runs out. You're going down line. It's my day, and this is your last day, not mine. And to have that warrior mentality, that's what happened when that door clicked every morning. You asked where's that question, he'll answer pretty much along the same lines. We're fucking ready to go to the end of life. And when you get to that point within your own life, then it's a very powerful thing. But we sit within this comfort of the four walls and what we currently got, not living our truest authentic self. And we become, a wimp, not a warrior. And what ends up happening when the opportunity arises, someone walks along the street and it was to attack your partner as a male, and you were this skinny and not strong enough and so forth. You might have the intent to try and step in, the person flicks you to the side. That's the level of operational thought process I'm at. I think if someone was to do that to myself, not that I want it to happen, but I could protect my partner. I'm ready for war and I'm ready to go to the end. And by just having that presence, I felt at times where I've been in dark spaces or places, people have walked by and sized you up and went, no, that bloke looks fit. That bloke looks like he's ready to go. He stands tall, postures back, and it's just, you're that proud lion walking down through the jungle, ready to rock and roll. And I think once you do that on business, on self-love, on self-care, and you become the fucking lion or warrior to your life, you'll step into a space, people will just go, fuck, man, you know what? No one is going to stop me today. And if you get in my way, I'm going to eat you and every other person that steps in my path. And that's a different conversation and a different mindset. And we just don't go there because we don't need to. But if you can put yourself there, that's where the magic will happen.
I love that, dude. I like where you said wimp, not warrior, or you want to go from a wimp to a warrior. I frame it as a you want to go from a creature of whim to a being of will.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Not an original, not an original. I got that one from
I love that.
Trevor
It's
Cashy, but it's good. It's good.
it's just not having the strength to having the strength, probably the greatest way to understand that. And the strength could be knowledge. The strength could be, it doesn't have to be fighting, physical violence. I'm talking about, when I say went to warrior, you know, being in a space where they say, hey, so and so jump on stage. We've got $100,000. I need you to take the stage right now. We've had this person pull out. Can you do it? And you're like, talk about, yeah, apparently you're the physics guy or girl, and talk for an hour about physics. And you're like, oh, I can't do it. No, I can't, because you haven't dealt with the anxiety, fear, your past, your invisible backpack. You haven't studied enough. So you are a wimp in the space that you should be fucking the beast, and the line that says, fuck, move out the way. I'm coming out on that stage. Watch me fucking roar. That's what I talk about when I talk about wimp to warrior. And it's just, we can all be the warrior for ourselves, but are we doing that, or are we being the warrior? Not the warrior, but the warrior who actually is worried about the space that we step into, and that's a different conversation. Warrior
Nice.
or
I like
warrior?
that. Yeah, warrior
Totally.
or warrior. Warrior
Yeah.
or warrior. I like that. Another thing that I'm probably gonna have as my little morning mantra. I wrote down it's where is it? Where is it? Get out of bed like you're prepping for prison.
Wow. Like, if you step out and you think, fuck, I've got to get up and get this done because someone's going to be at my door, that mentality, what is it that needs to get done for you to feel the way that you want to around the truest version and not the substandard version? That's what I'm saying. We do. As a parent, right? I'll give you the greatest example. Parents are a great example. We give our kids everything and anything, but we fuck them up because we enable toxic behaviors where they now expect everything and anything. And as soon as you say, no, we can't have the child, fucking jump up and down on the spot in a supermarket. And that rolls on into your life, the expectancy to be treated or specific way. What if you were to say to be able to control, and probably the biggest ones around food, give them everything, but then they put on weight. Now they're teased at school, they're bullied, fat boy, fat girl, whatever it may be. So as much as we thought we were loving our kid, now we put them in a space where they're teased by others because of the size of their appearance. And that's the reality of that conversation. I'm not like being beaten up on people that are carrying weight because I'm a nutritionist trainer, but we've got to understand, and this is that went to warrior conversation. I'm looking at it going, I don't want my kids to be a wimp around the projection of their health. I want to give them the chocolate, the chips, the fast foods, drive through every single day, but because it's easy as a parent. But once again, I take them back not only to being bullied, now I've created a habit which becomes and impacts their health. Heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. You want to give your kids that? I ask people, and they're like, no way. I'm like, well, why would you feed them that specific way every single day without intentions of making most of the foods healthy? And, I'm somebody who has a balance. I'd use an 80-20 principle. 80% of the times as Aboriginal people, we eat from the land. You look up the ancestral photos for anyone overseas, Aboriginal people, elders, and watch them, they're all six packed up. And I'm like, what the fuck did they do? They ate from the land. So 80% of the time I'm eating from the land, 20% of the time I'm enjoying life and ice cream and this or that or the other, right? And that creates a good balance for me personally, where my health is the most important thing, quality of life. And then on the other side, I'm not beating myself up on saying I need to look like Arnie or somebody of that nature. I just need to live it. I want to, I should say, not need. I would like to live a better quality of life. Heart disease, cancers, diabetes. Why did I do that? Same thing. My mother had cancer for 7 years, and I'd sit out the front of the hospital and I'd see these people that were terminal. I'd see these people with cancer and how much they suffered and what they would give to live the life, or reverse it and say, I wish I did this. And all their things were, I wish I exercised, I wish I ate better, I wish I'd done X, Y, and Z. Don't wish. You've got the opportunity. So your wish and your opportunity is a disconnection between your authentic self. And once you understand that conversation, how can I do this? Hire a fucking trainer, hire a nutritionist, go into a space for a period of time, say, teach me how, and what foods are good and for what reason, why. And that, look, you choose your own adventure around how you train, how you eat. There's a million different ways, and I'm not here to tell anybody. I'm more on a nutrient level where you want a deficit, surplus, enough nutrients in the body to build muscle, build a strong framework. But in general, it's your own. It's choose your own adventure, but just make sure you're on that adventure. I used to read, even that came from Hans Christian Andersen. I don't know if you had those books over there. And you choose your own adventure. So, like, same thing. I give people this many. This could be 10,000 solutions. You choose one of those around health, around relationships, around business. And once you do that, keep moving forward one habit at a time. And I promise you, man, life's going to be fucking magical. When you put your feet down on the ground every single morning, there's going to be intentions just like you are waking up, making sure that life is of value to yourself. Probably that's what was the message behind being at that door first thing in the morning, ready to go. Like, what is life? Is it valuable to yourself? Because if it truly is, well, get up and make it intentful. Otherwise, if you get up and just sort of roll with the program that you've been given by life, get work, roll through the punches, I'll never live into my goals, dreams, or aspirations. You'll always be what life has programmed you to be rather than what you thought about doing or stepping into every single day of your life. And there's two, I'm telling you, because I'm doing, I know you're doing, having that conversation before, there's two different ways to life: intentions or distractions. And distraction is the program, what life's told you is. Go through school, get a job, pay your taxes and so forth, or get a trade or something of that nature. And when you flip that, I was lucky to live on the streets, so survival became the way of life. I made money from 12 years of age. So I didn't see the program of life and went through it. And by doing that, I got to a point where the bank account, the health, the actions, the reactions were all totally different to what not life normally dished out, like this. And I'm like this. And people say, Morgs, I wish I had your life. You can. It's just about identifying that and taking and putting that effort, time, energy, and effort into your intentions, not the distractions of life.
Absolutely. Something a takeaway that I just had when when you mentioned thinking that life is important to you, or someone says, or if you were to ask someone a question, is life important to you? And then they say yes, but their behaviors are not in alignment like that. If life is so important, treat it as such. Don't treat it on the sidelines. Don't treat it as if you have another go. But I like that. Yeah. If you find your life to be important, treat it as such.
Mm.
And I think treat it as such in a way that you are proud of, where when you are participating in life that you view to be important, and your purpose and your values and your vision are once again in alignment. There's a lot of alignment talk on this one, my man.
Absolutely.
And when we treat our life as importantly as we say it is important, then there's even another level of authenticity, because then we can actually say, like, you know what, my I like to think of, like, when we are I like to think of the body as a business. And
100%.
whenever we look at a business, let's say, where there's the idea where someone comes and offers us the idea to invest in a business, right? What we're going to do is look at the data behind that and see if the business is worthwhile. And I think that we can look at the body and the being as a business. Oh, I love my alliterations, man. But we can look at that body and being as a business so that we can say, is this a business I would actually invest in if I was looking at it from a third party perspective? And when we can look at it from a business, then we can say, okay, you know what? I'll look at this business and I would probably adjust this, this, and this, and then this business would take off.
Absolutely.
And having
I
that
love that.
reflection, looking at it, and being able to have that forethought. Where another way I like thinking of it as well, where the body is the business, is when we are putting effort into it. A business is not built overnight. A body
Mm.
is not built overnight. There's,
Yeah.
I think when we expect it to take longer than we perceive or want it, we can't force, this is more specific for the body, I guess, but I think it's kind of a cool point, but we cannot force the body and our life to adjust to our mental timeline. We have to
Love that.
adjust our timeline to our body and what we're doing.
Love that. Imagine going, imagine presenting yourself as a business to Shark Tank. Would they invest in it? Literally, would they say, fuck yeah, man, count me in on that? Yeah, and they look at you, you're bent over, you're hunched over, your back's rounded, you say, oh, sorry, guys, I'm a bit sore in the back, and you're hunched over. And they're like, you're all right, mate, you look like you're in pain. And you're saying, oh, my back's sore. And yeah, and then you're telling them about invest in me, my quality of life. Look at me. And you're this hunched over, yeah, your hygiene's not on point, your hair's all over the place. There's no way that any person would invest in you, let alone you investing in yourself. And then same principle, would you pick that character in, let's say it was a PlayStation game, and you get to this level and you got to fight the lions and all these monsters or characters that are tough and they're built like the brick, the rock. And you go out as this little stick man, you just wouldn't pick that character. You'd flick straight past that character and you go, who's the biggest, fittest, most mobile, agile, toughest person? This person's got a rating of 100. This person's got a rating of 20 based around how they can fight their way out of this scene. How could you fight your way into life? And and that's the biggest thing, I'm going to build those little elements, my health, my agility, my ability. And that can relate to your business, your relationships, your daily actions, your daily deposits. All of a sudden, you become the person that you would pick in that character. You'd say, that's me. I'll pick him. Or, hey, my name's Jeffrey Morgan, and I'll walk out onto Shark Tank. My business is me, on my quality of life. And I'm wondering if you'd want to invest in my mindset business. We've had 800,000 people in the last 4 years, and having these different qualities, we've got this that connects with that, and so forth, and be very clear. You could elevator pitch that in a heartbeat. And most people go, what the fuck's an elevator pitch? Well, then that's your whole conversation around the business of your life. And the presentation to Shark Tank, what's your elevator pitch, mate? And I go to Shark Tank, what's that? And they're like, oh, okay. And then I'm hunched over going, oh, sorry, so sorry, I'm really sore in my back. You want to invest in this health program I've got? They'd be like, fuck, leg it, right? So that we've got to sit down and pause for a moment and say, what can I do? And don't beat yourself up. If you are that character that's here, I was that fucking person, but I got to jail and I said, fuck, I better do some shit. Otherwise, I'm going to fucking be in the space of being that little person that people pick on, take from, etc., etc. And the worst person that takes from or picks on themselves is you, because you haven't done the groundwork towards the most authentic self. And as you said, the alignment, as taking you back to that nightclub scenario, you, you could be in your car and you jump in my car and you hate techno music and I turn on techno music, I'm bouncing away. Oh, fuck this car ride. How long is it going to go for, right? Because you just hate that space. But that's what we do to ourselves as humans. And then guess what we do? We get good at that shit and go, oh, I'll just block this music out for this period of time. I'll look out to the scenery in front of myself, and I'm not going to tell Jeff to turn it down because we're not even strong enough to say, hey, do you mind if we step into a different space? Or you even say, fuck this shit, I'm going to buy my own car and I don't have to travel with Jeff anymore, and I'm going to turn on the music that I want in my life. That's that authenticity and that alignment that you've spoken about so much. And just that comes from effort upon effort. one habit at a time through the marathon of life, being intentional in your time, energy, and effort in any environment that you step into to become the warrior of your life, period. And once you do that fucking daily, relentlessly, I don't have time for distractions. I seen Kevin Hart talk about this. And he spoke about, yes, I don't have time to hate other people. How the fuck could you do that? Like, it means I'm dedicating some of my life to you or some of my life to the world. Oh, fuck, what's happening in this country or that? I can't even do that. If I'm in that country or I want to step into that space and be an advocate or activist or a politician, then I'm going to go down that path and I'll be the politician at its highest level. That's what I'm aiming for. And I'm going to work towards that slowly but surely. But if I'm not, then why do I need to? My opinion's just a distraction away from my intention, and just I don't even waste my time with it. I'm just like, no, it's not my business. And that's something I say very quickly. That 7-second conversation, I'm starting to think, why the fuck is this person doing this? As that's coming out, I'm going, it's not my business, and then I just turn away and I keep walking. And probably the homeless people is the biggest one. When I say that, I became so intentional. I used to give them money, but I enabled the behavior to just keep them there and say, fuck, this is how I can survive. So what I'll do is I stand on the corner, pull my hat out and give them money. I linked up with major companies, put them into capsule hotel, got them jobs. 2 weeks, if they did it properly, and I told them this, you showed up every single day, they'll pay for your bond, they'll pay for a little furniture package, because they wanted a worker, and they knew that if you were at that lowest level, remember, you knew what it was like to fucking appreciate shit. They went into a space where they went, fuck, I'm going to do anything and everything that I'm meant to be doing. And that meant that when I interact with that person, I don't want to work with homeless people, not in a bad way. My space is this current space, turning individuals into the healthiest, happiest, calmest, most successful version of themselves, more productive than ever before, finding total inner peace around the clarity of your vision, purpose, and why. Now, once I do that, I'll give space as I walk past now and say, if I could get you off the streets, would you take the opportunity? Yes, I would. You got a phone number? Yes, I do. A lot of people be blown away, but most homeless people got a phone. Get their number. What I'll do is I'll contact you tomorrow. I'll put you in contact with the company. They talk, and I don't. That's the depth of that space. So I'm still in my intentions, but I'll just my distraction is 1 microsecond, and I'm out of there. I'm not spending years on years going, fuck, I feel bad about that homeless person. Fuck, I should do more. And otherwise, you'll never live a life of fulfillment and feeling content. Do what you can, step out of the space, know what your intentions are, and make every single effort towards that direction. Watch what happens in your life.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that you said that resonated quite a bit. One thing that I think is the biggest thing that I think many people have the perception, or at least just from observation, and I could be wrong about all of it, of course, but I find that just from observation, there's a lot of pressure, or there is the perception that there is a lot of pressure that everybody should know everything going on all the time, all at once, forever and always. And I think that something that's very important is understanding that, like yourself, I had to learn that there is only so much cognitive space to be able to take in information. And if I'm taking in information that I don't care about in the first place, and I define care about as in I am not actively participating in to work towards a resolution of the thing. I find that when there's that incongruence, once again, of just people taking in that information and that expectation, we find that we are more resentful in that moment, and we don't realize that we are the ones choosing to take on that senseless information. And I say senseless as in it is not senseless. It is just senseless to take on the information that we are not actively participating in. Because if we're not actively participating in the thing that we're thinking about, then we're just fantasizing. So then we are literally sitting down, doing nothing, fantasizing about shitty things, or not even shitty things, but things that we don't have any interest in. And if we don't have any interest in it, we're not going to participate in it. If we're not going to participate in it, then we're just going to keep on thinking about it when we can be thinking about the things that are actually important to us and participating in those. And I think that is such a simple little frame where I think the cool thing for me to say when someone's like, what are your views on X? I like being able to say, I don't know. I don't really know. Can you tell me more about it? And then I could possibly make an informed decision. But I'm not going to have an opinion on something that I am not in it to win it, you know? Like
Right.
there's, or if I think of something, I, this is going to be kind of like tangenty ish, but I look at
Mm.
it like a pseudo morality where it's procrastination via altruism. So we
I
are
love it.
So we are pretending to be morally superior, but we're not participating in the the difficulty or the resolution of the difficulty. It's actually a vision of mine to be able to help people that would be in the homeless kind of realm. I have this
Yep.
vision of where it'd be hopeless to home or homeless to hopeful,
Yeah, love
and
that.
I think that's really cool. The thing that I understand, however, is that right now it's up here. It's in the two-dimensional realm because
Yeah.
I understand that I'm not in the chapter yet in order
Mm.
to be able to bring that into the three-dimensional realm.
Mm.
However, I'm not preaching to other people what my vision is and
Mm.
telling them to participate in the resolution that I see
Mm.
without being a part of it myself. I
Love
find
that.
I find that lack of authentic morality or personal virtue, where we're practicing being that absolute rock star, that best self, where that abundance is spread outwards. And I think when
Mm.
we get to participate in all the actions where we get to vision it rather than just taking on the information just to look good or look
Mm.
altruistic, then we
Yeah.
are able to actually make a huge impact. And I think and I believe that when we are able to be a part of it, then we don't have the earthquake. We don't have the earthquake going on.
Love that. I call it deflection reflection, and that whole conversation. Because what we do, we put ourselves in the spaces and opinions and conversations of convenience. So the deflection reflection is a conversation of convenience to fit in a space. And the greatest one, when you step into meeting new family or a get together, a party, you sort of just try and find a common space rather than just be yourself. And you might say, I'm a jazz musician, and everyone's like, oh, and keep moving on, right? But what people will do is they'll step into the conversation. How long you been doing that for? And just to fill that space for that period of time. And it's not that you shouldn't, it's great to want to be around people, but would that person be someone you're probably going to hang out with? And then they say they don't train, you train. They want to get on drugs, you don't, right? In this party scene situation, it's just not someone you get. But what you'll do, or most people will do, is spend an hour saying, "How long have you been playing jazz for?" Oh, yeah. Oh, you played at that club. Oh, amazing. And it's just filling a space with conversations of convenience, not conversations of elevation. And as I said, you're not going from the basement to the penthouse in the conversation. You're just filling a space, and that is time consumption of your life. Someone is chewing into your currency of life. And to be able to sit back and say to yourself, this is a movie scene, and I'm sitting there. Would people want to listen to this conversation in a movie? Would they really? Is this a part, a scene of the movie of your life that you want played to the world? because we're listening to it right now. And you're just saying, "Oh yeah, how long you been playing there for?" Yeah, oh yeah, that's great. But what notes are they? And if it was if that was a movie about Mozart and people love Mozart, we're not going to see Mozart if we don't love that person, right? It's just you just don't. Like most people won't. You might go and try it once and say, let's have a look if I do like this space. And then you recognize, fuck, it's not my space. But are you then going to show up and to other musician type things constantly and you're not feeling it. There's no vibe to yourself. It hasn't lit you up and told you. And then you play that back to yourself, and you're standing there going, "Oh yeah, I like this music," but your internal dialogue was to play to the world, and it says, "Fuck, I'm bored," and uh, is people will live that dysfunction every single day, and this is where you're going, two totally different roads, but you'll just show up and say, well, I've got to be in this space. And for me, even when I go to family barbecues these days, I'll say hello to people, but what is the common ground we can have a conversation about? Not one just to fill the time in the space, but is it one that I actually want to have value in that person's space, and vice versa? I always go into any conversation, what is the one lesson I want to take away from this individual that is of high value to myself? Because if I said, I'll give you $10,000 in this conversation, people go, yeah, give it to me. But I ask you this, or if I said to someone, we're sitting in this combo and I say, I'll give you 50 million if we sit down and have this conversation, you're like, yeah, hell yeah. So there's value in the money for yourself. But now I say, I'll give you that 50 million, but you got to die tomorrow. People say, no, fuck that. I ask this question and they're like, no, I'm cool. You keep the 50 million, brother. Well, then what is the value that you're about to take that is worth more than $50 million to enhance your life and push you up to that penthouse, rather than having a conversation of convenience and just talking absolute scrap? I call it scrap. We call it scrap in the air, shit and crap, just in a space to fill up some time. Conversation of convenience. Step into a better space for yourself. Identify who's in it. It's not a bad thing. It's just the same again, relevance of we jump in the car together and we're both vibing. You ever seen people driving along doing this? Yeah, and they're just in a vibe, man. They've both found their common ground. They're loving life. Hair, you see him out the window. I wish I had hair, but the hair's blowing. Maybe it's the dog. Look at the dog, man. The dog that gets out of the car. Be that for yourself around what lights you up. And you reckon you're going to go into a conversation of convenience? The only time that dog goes into a conversation is of benefit. You got food, I'll come to you. You're going to pat me, I'll come to you. You got a stick, I'll come. And if we do that, there's intentions behind every action. We don't get distracted by something that's not of value to ourselves. And that's probably the easiest way to break it down. Have a look at what animals do. They do what they need to, but do it at the highest level of your perception around your goals, your dreams, your ideal life, your aspirations, behind your vision, purpose, and why. What is your vision to life? What do you want to get out of it by the time you leave? And if we play that back as a movie and the scenes within it, are we going to sit, or are you going to sit back on your seat? You're watching this movie and it's on your life, and you're like, fuck, this is boring. Or was it like something that you wanted to do every single day? Move towards that and make it happen, because I can tell you, and every social media's made us aware that we can all achieve what we set out to do. It will come down to the prioritization of intentions or distractions, and break it down to its simplest form: good, bad, positive, negative, dark, light. Whatever way you want to perceive things, just break it to its yin and yang, and then move towards the intentions, distractions, your choice. And I'm not here to tell you how to live, but I definitely want to bring awareness to the best version of yourself that's out there. You just got to go out and grasp it every single day, one habit at a time.
Damn, that was good. Woo! Okay.
Write that script for yourself every single day. You're the superhero. You're the superstar. You're the main actor of your life, and you get to write that script. You're the script writer of your life. What you choose to put into your script will determine how high you fly within this life. Your attitude determines your altitude, and in the end, Joe Dispenza put it even deeper. Your personality creates your personal reality, and that's to me that's a banger, because it's relevant to conversations of convenience, not living your congruent alignment life or being that person. And now I sit down and I look back on mine and I hit play on that life. I'm like, whoa, damn, man, what a movie. And it doesn't have to be through crime but is it your true self? You wanted to be an athlete, you wanted to be so academically um and driven, or whatever it is that you want to do, become a model, start a business, fly to particular locations. If your mind is set around a set mind of how you currently live, and I can't afford that, because I always hear that people say, "Oh, I travel once a year." I'm like, "Fuck, is there a reason why you do that?" And they go, "Oh, I can't afford it." I'm like, well, then when would your mind change in your whole life to believe that? Do you know the average age of yourself? Oh, it's 83 in our country. So you've got 83 holidays within yourself at a micro level where your dream is to be able to do X, Y, and Z, fly business class or whatever it is. You can do it. You just got to be congruent to it and committed to it. You're committed to everybody. The craziest thing is this: 10 o'clock, meet me in the office. We need to chat about the report I need from yourself. You'll fucking show up to that meeting. Guaranteed your boss is going to kick your ass. You'll fucking show up because that pays your bills. Survival. Fuck, my kids are out there. I'm going to be there at fucking 10 to 10. But when I say 10 o'clock, you need to show up to your workout, your healthy habits, your thoughts, your behaviors, beliefs, your actions, your vision, your purpose, your why. Fuck, don't worry about it. I'll do it another day. Make yourself more important than your boss. Charge your phone more than you charge yourself more than you charge your phone, and fucking watch your life become absolute magic. I can't tell you enough. Like it's all intentions. I ain't intentional today. I put a 3 hour space aside for podcasts because we usually chat. This is the intention. We chatted before, and this did happen with us. We then talk in the podcast, and then I deload after it, whether it's with the person or myself, or take away what you've shared with myself. I've written down some stuff here. I'm in the podcast technique. I shouldn't be writing shit down, but someone on the other side is of high value. They've learned life lessons. They've got experiences that compress knowledge, share it, and say, "Here's my gift to you, Jeff. Take it." And I go, "Oh fuck, I'm not even listening to you. This is about me." Like literally, you're committing mental suicide by shutting yourself off to opportunity on a lateral thought process level on a regular basis. Open your mind, listen, and learn. My grandmother taught me this. I fucking wish I listened before I served 18 years. And she was around a lot longer. Unfortunately, she had emphysema, and that to me, mate, she would have whipped my ass a little bit more. And I think when I got a bit more maturity in myself, if she's still around, I would have shifted and changed. I was too young, and by the time the process went in, I had these entrenched, embedded habits and rituals that were destructive. And like people say, "Oh, you should have flipped it easy. Fuck, go and lose weight." Yeah, every year, everyone tells me how they're going to get fit, get healthy. We all think it, but the transition out, and that's where I became very powerful, because I then compress years of knowledge, practice, lived experience, education, put it into a space, and I can flip that in before that 7 seconds happens, and allow myself to make a better choice on the other side. And that's where, people say, "Fuck, you charge that much." Or to a person, let's say it was Tony Robbins or somebody, Jay Shetty. My investment, and it is an investment, not a cost, because we can compress years of knowledge and allow you to flip a space in 7 seconds. And what would you pay for that for your life? As I said, you choose 50 million or you choose your life. You choose your life. So how much is that knowledge that someone shares with you? And I had my book open, ready to go. So when you share the info, I wrote that down. I'm like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it into my perception around my program, but also plug it into myself. Thank you for that gift of knowledge. I'm grateful. And that's abundance, and that's a growth mindset. That's lateral thinking. That's stepping out of my ego. I don't know everything. I'm constantly willing to learn. I'll never be the prettiest, happiest, fastest, sexiest person in the room, but that's cool. I'm cool with that, and I'm cool with me taking one habit at a time and stepping into my marathon life as the warrior every single day until the life that I want is ever present. And it's, I'm at a space and point in time in a short period of time after I've come home from jail by not stepping into the labels, being present, being who I want to be, intentional, directional, time, energy, and effort in a space. Who am I around? No conversations of convenience. You break it all down, this whole conversation, you look at a strong fucking warrior that not only was ready for the line, but I flipped that line and I was eating the line in front of the Roman Empire. And the crowd, and they were all cheering me on, saying, "Fuck, what a movie! This was one of the greatest movies." The villain became the hero to his own story, and the villain in your life is the one that shows up not fucking living the truest, authentic self, and you crush and kill that character and step into the strong hero that you became, and that becomes, that's a movie worth watching.
Totally. I think this conversation has been a really good example of the how you mentioned compressing time, right? And a really good example for this one is I got to learn lessons from prison without ever having to go to prison.
100%, right?
And that's fantastic.
And the thing is, people will come into this podcast and go, "I never went to prison, so I don't need to listen." Fuck all. And like, same thing. I go to
Silly.
Tony Robbins and I say, "What's the lesson you learned?" "Oh, what a great speaker." "Yeah, so what was the other lesson you learned?" I don't know. And I'm like, "Fuck, you spend an hour in that space. That person shared you 4 million gifts of knowledge, and I was listening, learning attentive to that space." And the same thing, if you're in jail and you're not attentive, this bloke's coming from the side, bang, you got talk shit, get hit, and it's just be aware, more aware, man, of what you want. And I promise you, watch. I feel like I'm the Terminator. And like literally, for those that haven't seen Terminator, be very few, but there are people that haven't seen it. His eyes are scanning the environment, and I literally, is it my intention or distraction? I'll move towards this. Another one, just as intention, distraction, I'll move towards my intention. And that becomes a very powerful life, and one that I want everybody to be aware of. Because once you're aware of that, you won't jump in the car that plays the music that you don't want within your life. You'll be that superstar to your own story. And the book that I sit down and want to, I can't wait to flip the next page and see what happens. Rather than saying, "Oh, you know what, I'm 3 pages in, it's not my book, and I'm out." Make sense?
Mhm.
And you're worth more than that. Trust me, every single one of us.
Dude. Well, I got two questions for you. That's gonna you hit the spots, you hit the mind, you hit the heart, you hit the gut, man. You just been dropping some freaking fire knowledge bombs. I'm just like taking it all in, and something that I'm just like acknowledging internally, or that I'm recognizing, is I'm just seeing, or I'm experiencing this moment, right? I'm experiencing this moment, and I understand that I am on the right trajectory. And it's not specifically yourself or myself. It just feels like there is a consistency in the trajectory, and there's just been little nuggets that have been coming along where it's like, you're good, you're good, you're good. So I find that what I've learned in this conversation for myself, from myself, or internally with a little snippet of reflection, is when there is even a little semblance of, is this the right trajectory? Be mindful of opening your mind and scanning, like the Terminator, of those opportunities to find validation in, or not validation, but find that those little nuggets where it's like, I am on the right trajectory. These are the attributes, the characteristics, the impacts, the lives, the character, the story that I want to partake in. And I think when we find ourselves in the story we want to partake in, the supporting cast comes in at the right times.
Absolutely. Excuses are the nails that built the house of failure. And that's what we accept every single day of our life. We just go through with the congruency of what life is determined by you I didn't. When I was born, I was just told by my parents to go to school. Who says that? But it's funny, right? There's many people that never went to school, but they open books and study. So are they different to anybody else? But the determination is that you should have gone through school to learn subjects. Like, and this is for anybody. We learn so many different subjects. How many parts of geography or mathematics probably, to me, mathematics, I count how much I've got in my account, where I'm at, and so forth as an example. That's the level. Do I need in my everyday life A over B equals MC squared or whatever it may be? Unless I'm in that space, or I don't even know what job would be aligned to accountancy or some sort of construction or something of that nature. I wouldn't even know, right? We don't step into that space. So why am I learning that at a point in time? Yeah, it develops the brain. But what if you were to just do the life that you truly want? As I said, going back before, actions create reactions. And to do that and understand that conversation, I was going to share this, and I want everyone to really pause for a moment. When I step into a space, is the lesson, can I learn a lesson from this space? What will I learn in this space? And now should I step into this space? And if you feel that it's not a space, and it's like a conversation at a party, you step in and then the person says, I'm X, Y, and Z, and you just realize it doesn't mean they're a bad person, they're ugly, you're not good enough for me, or I'm better than you, or any of that conversation. It just means that you are so congruent with yourself that you say, I recognize and I see you and I respect your journey too, man. And it's, but I'm going to move on to the next person. And you'll find at parties, like, you train, where do you train at, brother? Or whatever it is that you do to get, and it's an easy conversational flow. What do you do in your workouts? What you do stretching and cardio and then core work in between your sets. Fuck, I've never thought about that. I didn't have time for core. What do you do? So, like, even that conversation, I say, what are you doing? Oh, I don't do core. I don't have time, brother. What are you doing between your sets? Oh, I look at Instagram and see what Jeff or Joe Blogs are doing, right? I'm like, fuck that. Have intentions. You told me you want to strengthen your core, your back sore. What if you did some core work in between your sets? Oh, fuck, I never thought about it like that. And that's how, like, literally life through the old ages has taught us to step into what we perceive as normal. Do you set? Now we've got to wait 30 seconds, 45, 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is that you're waiting. So I'll just sit here like this. You ever see people? Fuck, they sit there so awkward. And now you're in a gym, people are looking at you and you're like, oh, lots of they're awkward in a space. What if you went straight from that fucking set, bang, and I want to get a strong core. I'm on the floor now, I'm doing some crunches, bang, bang. The intensity of the workout, shortened time in space has become elevated. You've really compressed that time to become highly impactful towards your true self. And if you do that around business, life, and all of the above, then you become very powerful. And to me, I'm always compressing as much time as I can because I value it. Serve 18 years of jail, you'll value time, and you'll understand that fucking every second, 86,400 seconds every single day. I know how many seconds are in every single day. I'm going to make the most of that opportunity. And that means including on the back end, the sleep and the amount of sleep I'm getting, the mattress I'm on, the type of room I'm in, to make sure that I'm in deep REM as much as I possibly can be to maximize my truest potential around that space that I've stepped into. And that's just one I want everybody to think, what can I do in any podcast, in any space, listen, learn, how can I grow and prosper and level up within my life? So I moved from the penthouse, from the basement to the penthouse around my knowledge or my life or my love for myself, around my mind, body and soul. And that's a powerful journey. Be patient on that journey too. Don't compare. Just compare yourself to yesterday and what you did or didn't do. I try and add one new thing every week. One thing, that's it. And it could be one new thing. It doesn't have to be the Lamborghini. It could be a conversation you have with yourself. So you jump up, look in the mirror and say, fuck, you're beautiful, or whatever it is that you want to do. That could be the one thing. If you're not doing it, try do it for a week. And people won't even get that done. But if you can do it, then you know that you've got discipline to create a habit, which becomes a ritual. And if you can do it there, you can replicate and duplicate it in any space. And just because it's a word, it could be the core exercises in between your set. It could be the business component of business you put into your weekly planner that now becomes a part of your life. And slowly but surely, you're moving towards the truest version of yourself. That beautiful one, the one that everyone wants to read about, see about, but most importantly, you want to see and be.
Dude,
Yeah.
nice. All right. That is you draw so much fire, dude. With that one, yeah, that one hit a couple good spots on that one. So we're going to go into two questions that I ask every guest.
Let it rip, man. Let it rip.
And the first one, and I think you may have contemplated some of it. So I'm going to set the context. You're on your deathbed. You're surrounded by the people that you love, that you care for. What piece of advice do you want to pass on?
Find who you truly are. Live that every single second of every single day of your life. Do not apologize to anybody about being the truest version of yourself. Your job and your only job on this planet is to be you. Show up to that job like you show up to your current job, your kids, your life, and watch what fucking happens. Just watch, man. Like, you'll drop off associates. You'll find the deepest true connections. I'm not even calling them friends. I'm just calling them connections. And connections, business, life, love, all of that. You won't be surrounded by people that aren't meant to be there. The environment is in alignment with your truest self. Never apologize for being you. Just be yourself. And to do that, you have to unpack your invisible backpack of your past. Don't live within that space of who you are a hypocrite of, because that's what happens. We go, oh, I'm a hypocrite. I can't say that because I cheated on my partner, or I didn't show up in the past, or I don't have that money. Be congruent with the journey of the marathon of life around yourself. Well, have the green hair if that's what you want to do. If you can get through life on bare minimum and you're happy with that without disruption towards your stress and elements of your life, keep going. But if it's disrupting some form of your life, just like a pool whose pH level goes out, you'll become toxic to yourself and you turn green internally, and no one ever wants to step into, as I said, if I walked in the room and say, hey, my name's Jeffrey Morgan, I'm toxic, I'll give you depression, PTSD, and the life you don't want. Let's hang out and have some dinner. You'd be like, no, I'm cool, mate. So just that is the biggest thing. And when you are the truest version of yourself, you know what that definition is by practicing that and moving towards that. No comparisons to others. You just won't let toxic walk in the room to yourself.
That is
Just
awesome.
won't happen.
That was a great visual too. I just pictured it and just like, oh, you want to go for dinner? That's great. The second question is I really like this one. So the very best version of you is sitting next to you now. What you envision to be the best version of you.
Absolutely.
What piece of advice does that Jeffrey Morgan give you for this season of your life?
I tell you, your past doesn't define your future. Don't live in the old version of yourself when you step into your future vision of yourself. And what that means is a lot of people will always live with, whether it was being bullied at school or not strong enough or anything of that nature. Let go of what's in your invisible backpack by taking that out, putting it on paper, 2D motion, subconscious, conscious. Now create the reactions you want within your life through action, so that fear becomes the feelings, emotions you don't want into the feelings and emotions you do want. Now the actions, reactions, daily, relentlessly. And I think, yeah, a lot of people in general sit in. I think deeply on this. I could be the ex-crim that is turning 50. What do you want, wrinkly old man, and so forth, and ex-crim and so forth. When I do media here in our country, we just were on the main news here as an example, sharing the story. I'm comfortable with who I used to be. It taught me lessons so that the root cause of my problems became the foundations and strength of my future. And that's the roots of the tree, and that built this strong oak tree that will never come down. And I'm solid in my convictions of who I want to be. And basically now I'm building these new branches and leaves of the season and reason that I want to be living the life that I want. And when you define that every single day, you're going to show up and be the most beautiful version of yourself. When you drive past that tree, you're like, fuck, look at that tree. That tree is fucking magical. And it doesn't say a word to you. It doesn't move, dance. It just sits there being its truest, authentic self. And people will either like you or they don't. What they think of you isn't your business. The awareness you have of yourself is how you respond to that situation, which means that you're just living your life, your way every single day.
Dude, fantastic answers. I am very appreciative of this. And for those of you listening, that is what I got for you for today's episodes. Where can people find you, Jeff?
jeffreymorgan.com.au, JEFFREY. And then there's podcasts out there, there's content out there, and by all means, reach out, have a conversation. But here's the thing, don't reach out and have a conversation of convenience, reach out and have a conversation of intent. If I resonate with you, let's do it. Let's move into a space and work together to create the life that you truly want. And if not, I wish you all the very best. Same thing. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but just know that if you step in with that intention to fight the line and write the script to the story where you become the hero to your own life.
Love it. And folks, if you love today's episode, please do me a favor right now. Share it on your Instagram stories and tag me with my handle at DapperDudeKyle, along with at the Jeffrey Morgan. That is one of the ways that we grow. And until next time, my friends, keep up the kindness, and I hope your day treats you as good as you look.